Whew. Alright, I'm just gonna wait for people to show up before we get into this. Maybe like 5 minutes. I gotta make my... Where is this? Gacha banner? There we go. Oh, this is terrible cutoff. But I'm gonna make a community post. Alright, there's the community post. Now we just gotta wait. I remember there was a way, what's it called again? Like the live studio. Yeah, but anyways, actually, I need to find. No, I don't need to find the studio, but whatever. So, anyways, what this is supposed to be, as a lot of people know, is that the most recent video I produced faced quite a lot of backlash for reasons, and I've judged the quality of the video, given lots of things presented, to be lacking in information. So this stream here is essentially just cleaning up the reasoning and a lot of stuff. And one of the most important things that I missed for that video in particular, actually I'm gonna change it back to, okay, this is the wrong tab, but we're gonna start drawing on this, my explanation and stuff, because that's how it is. But anyways, so one of the most important things, so let's get into this first. And by the way, just a note, guys, I suck at drawing, and I also suck at controlling this. How do I like move around the canvas? What the hell? But I gotta zoom in first. Whatever. So let's start here. Okay, that is not what we wanted. Let's click the delete button if I can find it. There we go. Let's go to the top here, and basically the black fonts, elemental, Pixies, REDUX review. Here we have it. Also, feel free to like bring up points and ask questions, guys, because that is the whole point of this. We're trying to clarify information and stuff. And this is way too big. We're gonna need like a lot of space. I'll make this size 120. So the first thing here. So if you watched my video, there's a lot of problems with it. So let's list out a few of the problems. And just in case you guys are like wanting me to say it, the problem isn't the take itself. The take is not the major problem. The problem is that I didn't support the take well. That is the biggest problem of that video. It was not backed up well. I did not clearly state the methodology and reasonings behind it. We just had a ton of assumptions, and that's what made it all unclear. So that's what this stream is for clarifications. And I hate this text tool. What the hell is it doing? But let's move this down here, and let's call this problems with original video. Yeah, I cannot, like, I suck at writing. You guys won't be able to read it if I don't use the text tool. But basically, here's the problems. I don't know why it does that. Like, this text is white. Oh wait, it's down here. Okay. Yeah, but so first, let's get into the problems with the original video. Size 80. And the first is that just enough detail we got. How do I phrase this actually? It's just did not get into enough detail. Another one, unclear methodology. Also, the most important one that am going to say here is definitely at the very beginning of when I made the video, did not put a disclaimer that it was my own opinion, even though it was pretty easy, or you could make the assumption that it was my own opinion, because really I've preached for a long time that you should not take someone's words as facts, but just opinions. But I did not originally put out opinion disclaimer. But yeah, so basically these are the main problems, and now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. So the first most important thing we have to ask before we get into actual reviews is, what is the value of an Uber? What is the value of an Uber? This is a very important question. And this is what defines our methodology when ranking Ubers in the Battle Cats. You need to define stuff that basically, you need to define why you need Ubers in the first place. And there are two major reasons for this. The first one is to aid player is unable to perform regular non-Uber, just, I don't know, how about just generic strategies, basically as a crutch. It's like, if the strategy is too hard to do, you will bring in Dazzly, and then you don't need to do it anymore. And that is pretty obvious. But the second reason is to progress, is simply just to boost progression and be able to clear certain stages you would otherwise not be able to. And it's this second point here, which is a lot of late game methodology. One thing that is important to note is that Pixies, the benefit of Pixies is majorly aimed towards the first point. It is, in a sense, very helpful towards newer players, because newer players make mistakes, of course, and newer players, obviously, we do not know the guide tutorial for every stage in the game. We're going to go in blind, and something that's inherently safer, like Pixies with resistance, is going to perform better. In late game, we do know that they aren't as strong. They are mostly Cats Cosmos oriented, but this still is important value depending on your methodology. And here, the second point is mainly what I was focusing on in the video, which is that they aren't that useful for clearing specific stages that are, say, roadblocks or harder ones in the game, but they are good at this first important part, which is making stages easier, which in a sense is basically what everyone wants out of an Uber. At least most people for that part. So let's get into Ubers now. Let's get into Bora. Also, you guys have any questions, like any important questions, please ask me them. The chat is also very delayed, so I might not see your question for like 20 seconds or even longer. But let's get into Bora now. First is things that we mentioned in the video about Bora. Actually, no, let's not get into Bora. We have to get into the overview first. We'll follow along like how I did in the video. Actually, I'm gonna make like a diagram, and I do not want to shrink this. Also, just a note here that I need an arrow. So this second point is mainly what I value more. And not to say that everyone will, but just some people do. Because, you know, some stages like suck and you can't clear them until late, so having Ubers that really work to make you clear them earlier, and then you unlock more progression from that. That is the importance of having this second part. But anyways, the overview. Let's talk about what the Pixies are at a construct level. What are the Pixies? And we know, obviously, the Pixies are designed to aid the player against put this in parentheses, starred aliens, because they do beat normal aliens, and I'm not trying to deny that, because they definitely do that. And of course, they are also designed to make Cats of the Cosmos very easy, and they do that. Nothing we have to acknowledge. All have resistance, and warp immune, and barrier breaker. And as a result, because they are specialists, they have weaker generalist stats. So these are the fundamentals of the Pixies in a nutshell. And if you guys need any clarification, because these are pretty much the obvious things that we all know, right? At least we can agree that much. Yeah, here's the thing about, like, we'll get to Dark Heroes and Cats of the Cosmos, because Dark Heroes and Cosmos is actually something very important to discuss. But, well, Pixies, of course, is more important to discuss first. So let's leave this blank. Let's make a new whole page, because this is just the cover page. Let's create a new, let's just make a wide one. Let's call this Bora. So this page will be for discussing Bora. So here's Bora. We need to downsize this font a ton. So Bora. What does Bora do? That is today's question. Nuker against aliens. Usual Pixie abilities. So we know Bora is a nuker against aliens with the usual abilities. So the first question we have to ask is, does Bora work as an alien nuker? And the answer to that is yes. Or actually not just yes, but to what degree we should ask, and the answer is yes, very well. Bora is a good alien nuker. We're not trying to take that away from him, and I explained this in my video. Bora is a good alien nuker. Oh, get an image of Bora? Okay, let's get an image of Bora then. Alright, let's grab our image of Bora from here. Let's get Bora. Oh my god, I clicked an ad. What the hell is hotels in Bora Bora? That's not what we wanted. Let's go with first form, because he's a cool design. Let's just put him in the corner here. So does he work as a nuker? Yes, very well. Is he a good generalist? And the answer is no. But he's a specialist. We don't care that much about if he's a good generalist. Now here's the thing. We have to discuss this important, which is we compare him to other Ubers, specifically other anti-alien. Comparing to other anti-alien Ubers. And this is a point I made in my video, which is that Bora does perform equal with, like, say, a Catman or a Warlock in reality because of how Overkill works. Those Ubers are all strong enough to beat any alien stage in the game that is a backliner, stage where backliner works on. Which is that, like, works equivalently for the most part with, say, Kira, Catman, not Akira actually. Kira's kind of weak unless you get the Ultra Talents, but Ultra Talents are fraud anyways. Catman, Saki, Afro, Mikako. Who else is there? There is one other one that I'm thinking of. It's the Mongal. She's pretty good. Oh yeah, Reika. Actually, Reika's multi-hit. That's a bit different. So we assume this and specifically beating alien stages. Actually, not beating alien stages, but nuking aliens as a backliner. If we assume this, at the very least, we're giving Bora the benefit of the doubt. Yes, I will make a video about this one. So the first thing we have to look at is... Actually, this text is way too big, actually. I need to downsize this text by like a whole lot. Let's go size 30, actually. Yeah, size 30. Because I need a ton of space here. So we know that he works equivalently. But basically, what are Bora's benefits? That is today's question. Well, we have many questions today, but this is one of them. And that is too big. Let's do this. What are Bora's benefits? And the most obvious one that a lot of people pointed out that I didn't talk about is the strengthen. Actually, not the strengthen. I mean, that's one of them, but that doesn't. I already pointed that out that it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's not the barrier breaker either. It is the resistance. Tanks more damage from aliens. This, of course, makes him tankier. But what I failed to point out is, when does this matter? Like, when you think about it, when does this even fucking matter? It matters, of course, in Cats of the Cosmos, where meat shielding is limited. So let's say you can't even protect him properly because meat shielding is limited. In other stages, you can protect him properly. So it acts as a safety net, and that is true. Now, however, the second question we have to ask is, do other alien Ubers struggle with survivability? And the answer to that is no, they do not. They do not struggle with survivability at all. And we do know that Bora's resistance makes him tankier against aliens, and that's only aliens. And because Bora does not even struggle with survivability in the first place, resistance is a benefit, but it's not game-changing. Oh yeah, I need to zoom in. Like, how about this? Can you see it now better? Yeah, cooldown is another one I have to get to as well. Thank you for pointing that out. So basically, does the alien nukers other struggle with survivability? The answer is no. So Bora's resistance is beneficial in a way, but at the same time, is it all that necessary? Not really. Outside of, let's say, Cats of the Cosmos. There is, however, one stage, there are a few stages we can name where it does matter. Actually, wait, yeah. So no, for the most part. Now, let's name some example stages. How about Puffer Planet? We all know Puffer Planet, the boss, does a ton of damage. And because Puffsly does a ton of damage, this resistance actually does make a difference compared to the other Ubers. Except it doesn't. And the reason why is because the other Ubers beat Puffer Planet anyways. They will die. But if you can still beat the stage, it doesn't matter whether you beat the stage with Makako dead or you beat the stage with Bora alive, because you still beat the stage. And that's why, in reality, it does not matter that much. What matters is beating the stage, and it doesn't matter what level HP your Uber has left, because what wins is what wins. And while this is beneficial, we know it's beneficial in Cats of the Cosmos, and at low levels, it does make a difference in Puffer Planet. But in the grand scheme of things, it's only a slight advantage for Bora. Well, let's say a Catman has multiple traits, a Saki has multiple traits, and is better compatibility alongside Aphrodite because they're better at sniping backliners, on top of Afro being a generalist, and Makako is basically equivalent for the most part. Bora has the res, Makako has the slow. And I guess Makako has roll compression as well, so that's useful. And this whole resistance thing also ties into, let's put it here, we got the cooldown. Faster reproduction. So we know that Bora has a faster cooldown and has the resist. Now here's the thing about the comparison between Afro and Dali, or Phono, for example. The logic with this is because we're not comparing it to them to every Uber in the game, but more specifically that because we're deciding which banner to roll, and we already have Dark Heroes, which does exactly what this does but better with a slight amount of difference. Just because Phono exists does not mean that, say, Afro is useless, because not everyone will have Phono. But I'm saying here, because the whole argument is that we don't need to have Bora in the first place, because we could have just not rolled Pixies. We could have rolled Dark Heroes. While Phono, for example, you have to roll them versus Fest, and other sets do have benefits that are different from Fests. What I'm trying to say here is that the benefits that Pixies provides as a set are negligible compared to rolling Dark Heroes. It's one set versus the other, and both are guaranteed. Guaranteed is very important to have. I'll say Afro versus Dahlia-san, the caveat of Dahlia-san being better than Aphrodite is that Dahlia-san comes from a worse set that is Dragon Emperors. Yeah, when you say you don't need Dark Heroes, just roll Super Fest, well, I mean, like, here's the thing about that. We have two types of rolls, and it's very staple knowledge. And that staple knowledge is that if you use cat food, you probably want to roll for guaranteed banners. And if you have rare tickets, you want to roll them on the Fest, because guaranteed has higher rates, because it's literally a guaranteed Uber. So we're going to roll both Fest with our rare tickets, and most people will roll normal banners with cat food for guaranteed. And you could say best banners only, like roll the Almighties, or roll the Dynamites. But sometimes it's okay to roll a weaker banner if you don't want to wait, is one important thing. And you also want to, or simply put, you want to fill a gap in roll. For example, if you don't have good anti-aliens, Pixies seems appealing because they're full of good anti-aliens. But Dark Heroes also has a bunch of anti-aliens and has other benefits. That's the important part. So anyways, let's get back to this. Cooldown is faster reproduction. Does this matter? And the answer is, it matters in Kodic. It matters in Cats of the Cosmos, because things die in Cats of the Cosmos. Does it matter on? And the answer to this is, it matters only player fails to protect their Uber well, because all other nukers do beat I wouldn't even need to say the hardest, just beat all the alien stages in the game. And this is true, by the way. So we do have a lot of safety net things. And I'm not trying to say that Bora having the faster cooldown or the resistance are useless, because they are very, very useful. They are very, very useful for situations like Cats of the Cosmos, where you cannot properly defend. And it's also, yeah, just where you cannot properly defend the Bora. That is where it's most useful, as well as if you just fail to do that yourself. But the problem with this is that the other Ubers win anyways. There's a concept that's called overkill, where it's like, if two Ubers beat a stage, one of them absolutely stomps the stage, and the other one still beats the stage but not as hard. It's not like one Uber is technically better than the other at the stage, but they are essentially equivalently in value. If they have other aspects that you can measure against them, you'll choose the one that have other better aspects, because let's say one Uber already beats the stage, and beating the stage is what you wanted in the first place. So it only matters if they fail to protect their Uber well. That's what the cooldown does. Because let's be honest, have you seen a stage where one Bora was not enough? Was there ever a stage where one Bora was not enough to beat all the aliens in the stage? Oh yeah, and also, like, I read a comment here. Bora is very good against the Ursa Major and Glass Slippers. He's one of the best Ubers on that stage for eliminating Ursa Major. The problem with that is that Aphrodite also works, and Makako also works, and Catman also works. A lot of Ubers work for that role. But basically, if you have any more questions on like why Bora stuff that I need to get into for specifically Bora. Oh yeah, we need to talk about Barrier Breaker first. And this matters in Cats of the Cosmos. Actually, I should put my explanation here. So Barrier Breaker matters in Cats of the Cosmos. And elsewhere, we have the Breaker Cannon. Now, we normally don't bring up other units, but I'm pretty sure the Breaker Cannon is something that you're going to bring to Breaker stages anyways. And I do think that if you don't have it unlocked, which makes sense for Cats of the Cosmos, this is valuable. But afterwards, we have the Breaker Cannon, so this hardly doesn't matter. I don't think people are valuing that Barrier Breaker that much inherently. So what is our conclusion from this? Basically, every aspect of Bora that was different, the cooldown, the resist, the Barrier Breaker. Our conclusion for this is Bora is better than the other anti-aliens in Cats of the Cosmos, but is equivalent outside of that. Bits are marginal. And the benefits exist. Oh, I need to get into Warp Immune. That's also important. Warp Immune. And we do know that Bora is better in Cats of the Cosmos, which is for sure, and is equivalent outside of that. Bora still lacks other value, its role. I mean, outside of this role. unit is competent, but not outstanding. Basically, Bora does, as I said in my video, Bora does exactly what you wanted it to do. Bora works, but Bora doesn't do anything more than how it works. And how it works is enough to put him at like where I put him, B tier. But it's not enough to really go above that. And let's put them down here because we need to get into Warp Immune as well. Actually, let's add more stages. Puffer Planet is 1. Chapel Transfer is 1 because of the waves. This is cheesable, by the way, so it doesn't really matter. So Puffer Planet, Chapel Transfer. Let's think of more. Banana Genomes. Except you can wave block. So basically that's the main gist for these stages. And I'm pretty sure you'd have Octo by the time you reach Genomes. And basically Warp Immune. This matters in Cats of the Cosmos. And otherwise, Warp actually isn't inherently bad. Besides Gardeil. Gardeil is the one enemy where you do not like Warp. Besides Gardeil, because it repositions units to safety. And the main benefits of Bora's Cats of the Cosmos power, as well as ease of use from resist. And other Ubers, other alien. And other alien nukers have value elsewhere. I think this, so far, this is, let's zoom in a bit. Like, guys, tell me if you need anything answered. Is this a fair review of Bora? Or is the wording wrong? So basically the argument that you take 2 and 2, for example. We know Bora is the same as Ubers outside of Cats of the Cosmos and better in Cats of the Cosmos. But Bora only has his alien niche and these other Ubers have more on top of that. And that value of Cats of the Cosmos being easier isn't really the same as the other Ubers having other niches. That's basically my answer to that. Now, you think I'm making the banner look good right now. But, like, this is one of the better Ubers in the banner. I'm giving this a fair review, basically. So that's Bora. And here's the thing. In my video, I don't see any complaints about my reviews of Aer and Mizli. Because Aer and Mizli are basically very simple to understand and pretty trash. So let's move on to Volta. Actually, let's make, like, Mizli and Aer. Let's just do this for like simplification purposes. So Mizli and Aer. Not many disagreements. I think this much is fair, right? Like, no one really complained about why Mizli and Aer were treated as low as they were. Because it's easy to see why. Unless you guys need one of them. Like, I'll wait a bit for you to tell me if you want Mizli or Aer explanations. Alright, I'm waiting for a bit of questions. Yes, you are not likely to get the Uber you want, which is fair. But what I'm trying to argue is that basically Bora is not as valuable as you might think. Like, in a sense. Because if all these Ubers perform equivalently as Bora, then, well, rolling for Bora is a 1 out of the whole set number chance. And that goes the same with all the other Ubers. You're not guaranteed to get Bora either just because you rolled Pixies. You could get Aer, for example, and just be screwed over. But yeah, Mizli and Aer, I think no one really complained about that. So let's start Volta. Also, I need to go faster. It's been like an hour already. Jesus. Or I'll need a second stream for this, which is more likely. But I do not have much time, unfortunately. Actually, not text. Let's just copy this. Volta. I'm just gonna look one more time, see if there's any problems with Mizli or Aer. I mean, if we assume a scenario where we got Bora, then Bora is good. But the same thing applies for those other Ubers, and what I'm trying to argue here, like as a collective, once I'm done with this, is that you shouldn't be rolling Pixies as a whole. Because the other Ubers, because there's other banners that have basically exactly what you want. Now there is one difference with Pixies, to sum it up, and I already stated it, which is ease of use, which is very, very important for newer players. But let's get into Volta now. And because you guys wanted Bora there, let's get a Volta picture. Everyone likes Volta, at least design-wise. Well, maybe not everyone, but I know a good amount of people who do. So, Volta. We have high range freezer. The range is what separates from Seafarer, as well as consistency. Higher range than Seafarer. And 100% proc rate. So let's start off with that. We know that well, actually, the thing is, when if you want to bank on getting an anti-alien Uber and that having a better one at getting in Pixies than Dark Heroes, I actually disagree with that, because you can get Aer and that's terrible. You can get Mizli, that's terrible. You can get Takachi, who is also terrible. In Dark Heroes, they're pretty serviceable, actually. They're on par, if anything. It's just that Pixies is way, way better for ease of use. The other ones aren't as they aren't as forgiving to use, but they still definitely work on all the hard alien stages and just alien stages in general. But we'll reach that later, because first we have to dissect Volta. So we know Volta has higher Seaf rate. I mean, high range than Seaf, 100% proc rate. So the question we always have to ask is, when does this matter? When does this matter is a very important question. Well, let's talk about the range. When does range matter? And the simple answer is basically 280 plus, which is Seafarer's range. So in specific, Ursa, Moth. Actually, wait, what the hell is, let's go to my Yamamoto for a second. Volta's range. 370. What is Moth's range? Oh god. Oh no. Wait, Volta's freeze immune, right? He's freeze immune. Immune to. He's not freeze immune. Was he freeze immune with talents, guys? I don't. I have BCU on me. I can find out. Oh, okay, yes he is. Okay, yes he is. But like, there's Volta done. Actually, because of resistance, he does work on these enemies. But let's just say Ursa Major. We can leave Moth here. I am face. Etc. But one thing that does actually matter, which specifically for Volta, I already disproved why it didn't matter for Bora, at least that much outside of Cosmos. But his resistance is important for Volta. The answer to resistance is a lot, actually. And let's put stages here. Cosmic Juggernaut. Seafarer is terrible on that stage, but Volta's pretty good. How about just banana genomes? Wave chip, Seafarer gets rolled, Volta actually tanks a few, and then he supports with freeze and has the guaranteed barrier breaker. He's good on that stage too. So we do know there are stages where the resistance does matter, so Volta has merits over Seafarer. That is something that we have concluded here. Now, tell me if I'm going way too slow, because this takes a lot of time to digest. And I think at the front page, I need one very important thing, which is that important. One very important thing. I'm not saying Pixies is the worst set for everyone. Saying that depending the type of player, either Pixies or Lugas can be considered the worst set in the game. And I think that's something that I have to highlight. Pixies is not the worst set in the game for everyone. For a lot of people, actually, it's far from it, because Pixies are extremely generous with playstyle. They're extremely easy to use and forgiving. That's why Pixies are definitely not the worst set, for example, for a brand new player who is not the best at defending units. Because Pixies will help. But there is an angle where Lugas isn't the worst and Pixies are worse than the Lugas if you are good at protecting your units and for example, want to focus on progression boosting more than ease of use. And that's why, if we look at the two sets, inherently, by design, Pixies are over-specialized and fantastic answers to aliens with great ease of use. Lugas are the complete opposite. They're general, and they aren't high-impact overkill. They are, for the most part, low-impact and just minor support, and they are also extremely hard to protect. They have low ease of use. But if we don't value ease of use because we consider the player to be competent enough to defend the Luga, then that's where the Pixies' main benefit starts to break down. That's where the Lugas get the upper hand. Does that much make sense? I hope it does. From like an overall standpoint that we will get into. Anyways, conclusion. And although reproduces and can permafreeze easier, this does not take away from Volta or even using both. You can always use both for Volta. And this is good. This is good for Cosmic Juggernaut, for Banana Genomes. This is value that Bora provides. I mean, that Volta provides, just like how Bora provides value on Glass Slippers by killing that Ursa Major. And do I really need to state that Volta is good on Cats of the Cosmos? That's the most, like, obvious thing ever. But let's just do it. Volta is fantastic on Cats of the Cosmos. Duh. That's very, very obvious. Now we get into the semantics of Volta, which is, by what degree does Volta, a player who already has Seafair, and the answer to this is right here. So I'm just gonna draw an arrow at this point. The answer is right here. This is the answer. This is when Volta helps, when Seafair doesn't. Cosmic Juggernaut, Banana Genomes, and other stages similar. And oh, sorry for hitting my mic. And really, there's not much more to dissect about Volta. I already basically covered a lot of it, and Volta's way simpler because there's less alien freezers, and it's mostly versus Seafair. So our conclusion is Volta still provides value even when Seafair is owned. And the question is, how much value? And this is the problem. It's not that much. Actually, we have to make this easier. Ease of use / quality of life. A lot. Volta is very, very, very nice to use. And then we have stage clearing. A little. Yeah, Volta is definitely not much compared to talk about compared to Bora. Because Volta is very simple, and a lot of what I said still held up. But yeah, we only needed half this page, essentially. So, Volta does provide value, for sure. But it's not that much, in the grand scheme of things. It's mostly quality of life. And that's why I particularly put Bora and Volta in similar tiers. And I think most people do that. Some people actually put Volta lower than Bora, but I think Volta has his stages. He has his moments. And this is simple enough. Also, I need to rename this layer, but I don't know how to do that. Anyways, let's get into the next problem. Yamii. Actually, let's just put another statement here. Volta is very useful for players. QOL, less RNG when freezing aliens. Overall. Necessity. How do I spell this word? Necessity. Not that high. It's in QOL and ease of use is valid. It is valid reason to roll. Next up we go to Yamii. And by the way, I would say it's very, very, very much important that if you guys have questions and that you can ask them to me, because I do not want to miss a point again. Also, yeah, I spelled necessity wrong. I'm so good at spelling, guys. Actually, I'll just do this. I suck at spelling. There we go. There we go. Hello, Wither Slayer. Thank you for the donation. And thank you, Corrupted Slayer, for the donation as well. Yeah, Mizli is the coolest Pixie, at least for me. It's my favorite design. I've tested Mizli a ton. I spelled it right. Well, I have low confidence in my spelling salted. Well, actually, we can go back since it looks dumb now. There we go. Okay, and let's go to Yamii. Yamii. And again, let's grab an image of Yamii. Okay, I'm not gonna finish this today, I think. We're gonna need 2 parts for this. And just the fact that I need 2 parts for this shows how flawed the video was in a sense. I gave 27 minutes to a topic that needs hours to discuss. Also, in my opinion, when it comes to like worst banner and Dragon Emperors, I actually used to consider Dragon Emperors part of the question. The problem, well, just one small thing is just that boosted it up for me. Gundros is really, 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 really good. Gundros is great. And that's like such a power spike to the set that I think it raises it above the question. Well, you could still question it if you think Gundros is flawed, but I think he's fantastic. But Yamii. First thing to talk about, wave block. Actually, I didn't even get my picture. Here we go. So we have Yamii and you have other Yamii. What is ranged wave block main benefit? If you have Octo, this is a very important question to ask with Yamii, because of course if you don't have Octo, this is a game changer. Shout out to Game Changer, by the way. But what is his main benefit? And the answer is, obviously, if enemies is that Octo dies. Yamii does not. And even if he does, cooldown. Actually, how long is this cooldown? I remember Yamii has a longer cooldown than most Pixies. Like his cooldown is 100 seconds. No, 97 seconds. This is basically 100 seconds. Yeah, Octo is like 10-second cooldown, right? Like Octo. It's a cooldown of, yeah, like 10 seconds. So 10 Octo, 1 Yamii. Cooldown isn't that long. Now here's the problem that we have to get into. And it's going to sound repetitive because this is the methodology we're doing. Also, yes, you can use both, but I'm being honest here. You should not use both Yamii and Octo, because Yamii is good enough by himself for almost every wave block stage. Is Yamii better than Cat Machine? Yes, at wave blocking, and no at Generalist, and I think you can decide which one. I mean, no at like tanking stuff, and you get to decide yourself what you value more, and it's probably the wave block for most of you, but sometimes it's not. Now here's the thing, I did say in my video, he is the best ranged wave blocker in the game. I do not contest that. I think he is 100% the best wave blocker in the stage. I mean, in the game. So we know that Yamii, Octo died, Yamii cooldown. The best ranged wave blocker. Yes. Due to, actually this doesn't even matter, it's just yes. I don't need to explain why. He just has, like, the cooldown, the bulk. Actually, I can just write it here. CD, bulk, range. That is why he's the best range blocker. And the question we have to ask here is, in what situations is Octo not enough? Not just Octo, actually, because there's a lot of situations where Octo is not enough. Octo plus your existing anti-wave units. And usually, we can name stages as usual. Banana genomes. What's that other stage? Authority and Gravity. Exile Max. These are specific stages where Yamii's wave block shines a lot over, say, Octo and Dancer, the Donko Dancer pairing. Because the thing is, like, what my main point for Yamii is, actually, it's not that Yamii fails as a wave blocker at all. It's that I think as a construct as a whole, not just Yamii, but also Eva 00, Osaka Miku, I think a ranged wave blocker as a whole is a pretty overrated role. Yeah, and as like Sir Kill points out in chat, Banana Genomes is a joke because you have Mushroom. And Mushroom is something that you're going to get anyways in a non-Uber run. Now, we have to look at these stages, of course. All of these are late game. And all die to wave immunes. Not just die, but easily. Or Mushroom, Dancer, Hitman. And honestly, you don't even need Dancer. Mushroom and Hitman is good enough. And the question is, will players already have Mushroom and Hitman? And the answer to that is, in today's meta, most likely. The reason why is because stages like Glass Slippers 3-star and Clone Farmers 3-star exist. And we do know. So in a sense, the main benefit of ranged wave blocker is ease of use or quality of life. Are you guys noticing a pattern from this? We'll get into his tanking potential later. But anyways, are you guys noticing at least a pattern about this? One of the biggest things about these Pixies is that they are all really good quality of life units. but in like practical value, they aren't the biggest improvements. How late game are we talking about here? We're talking like mid UL plus. Most people are gonna have Mushroom by then. And like the new meta, at least for now, is you get Hitman as fast as possible because Hitman is game breaking. Yes, the pattern is just quality of life. That is the main benefit of the Pixies, as stated. It's quality of life. And quality of life is a valid way to assess value. But on my main page here, my methodology is heavily based on the second one. Not quality of life, but boosting progression, being stages you couldn't otherwise. So that's why if we look at a methodology like that, it's where Pixies, the main value of Pixies starts to decrease. And I know the argument of every Uber to an extent is replaceable, but it is important to recognize how Ubers perform on certain stages. Especially given non-Uber units, and although non-Uber units, it is technically possible to beat all these stages with non-Uber units. But let's say you have limited levels or limited units, then you can do stuff without them. Have I considered the cuteness of Mizli? Unfortunately, I have, and I gave Mizli a special tier, but Mizli's awesomeness is not enough to carry this set, from at least being bottom 2. So we know the main benefit of the range wave blocker. And then we have tanking niche. And his tanking niche, oh wait, sorry for hitting the mic there, is like serviceable. One important thing, oh wait, I never went into Gravi, sorry for skipping Gravi, but we'll get into him after this. But another thing that applies to both Yamii and Gravi is the bigger question with this. Actually, not just serviceable, it's actually good. I'd say it's good. He has a weaken as well that increases max health. Now the question we have to ask here, when is tanking aliens important? When is tanking aliens important? And this is something very important to get into. Also, one very important thing that I think needs to be said about this. I'm not trying to convince you that, like, I also have it on the front page. I'm not trying to convince you guys that Pixies is the worst set definitively. I'm saying that there is an angle where Luga's is better than Pixie and Pixie is the worst set. And that depending on the type of player you are, one can be worse and the other one can be better and vice versa. So when is tanking aliens important? The answer to this question is, let's name stages. So Cats the Cosmos is one because of limited meat shield supply, and then we hit quite a roadblock. Where are tanking aliens important? And when you start to think of stages in the game where walling off aliens is important, you're gonna hit a roadblock because in reality, not much else. You don't actually need to tank aliens if you have meat shields. Like, think about the most famous example of tanking aliens. Also, by the way, when I say not much else, I do know the stages that it is useful on. For example, Speechless Tongues, Bear and Hippo. There are more, etc., but only a few. And the important part, all are late game. All are late game or end game. Oh, I didn't mean to move that. Actually, I'll put this down here. I don't want this. Why is late game? Wait, did I put a space here? God damn it. There we go. Actually, I can fit this here now, because that was just a spacing problem. So we know that all basically, for the most part, tanking aliens is good in Cats of the Cosmos and in late game. Because early on, alien stages are primarily backliner. You want a Bora more than you want a Yamii or a Gravi. Because Bora, like a damage answer or a CC answer like Volta is what you need. On Swib Meet, bringing out a Yamii is not going to save you on Swib Meet. It's not going to save you on like other stages like... What other alien stages are there? Yeah, Puffer Planet as well. You don't want a tank there. You just want a damage answer or an answer to Puffsly or the Pengs. And Yamii alone is not really going to save you there, especially because he's not yet knockback immune. But yeah. So we know all of these are late game or end game. And as we know, Soap exists. I don't need to say anything more. Soap exists. And it is not that they are useless, that their value is away necessary. Oh no, this is horrific spelling, man. Oh no. Yeah, I'm doomed. Not needed. So not only exists and outperforms them, at raw tanking. The reason being cooldown. Now we have to ask the other opposite, which is that tanking Aku, however, lacks no comparable option. We do not have a good Aku tank. We have Korn, but that's a meat shield. That's not a true tank. Lacks no comparable option, like Soap, for example. Now here's the thing on specifically wait, so I saw a point. So Soap versus warp immunes. Versus warping enemies. And my answer to that is you don't need a tank on most stages that spam warp like Star Pengs. You don't really need a tank there, and a tank is not really going to help you there. Because Star Peng spam, mid-range alien spam, you want damage or crowd control usually. A tank is not going to save you. Like, for example, if you bring Yamii to... Actually, not Yamii because of the wave block, but we're looking at specifically tanking niche. If you brought, like, Gravi, for example, to Chapel Transfer, he's not going to do anywhere near as well as a Bora or a Volta there, because you want those aliens dead or, like, stunned. Specifically, Bora is really good on Chapel Transfer, but that stage is cheesable anyways. Which, then again... So we know that tanking Aku has no comparable option. Value of itself is rare. It's very rare that tanking Akus is useful because of Aku design. Catered towards because of the, what's it called again? Yeah, because of the shield or death surge nature. Like, if you can tell me one stage where tanking Aku is useful, actually, just tanking, not damage dealing, and not his wave block value, because we know his wave block is good. Because I do not know of any stages where tanking Aku enemies without damage back or CC back is that useful. Yeah, I think that is true. Having this ranking Pixie makes Soap more redundant to get. That is true. You do not need Soap, for example, on some stages. The problem is, you still need Soap on other stages. Like, for example, you bring a Yamii to, Yamii is not beating Speechless Tongues, for example. Yamii is too slow to do anything there. You need Soap anyways. On Glass Slippers, Yamii is not as good for the Bahamut chain. He does not reach the front line fast enough. But he can wave block, so you can save your Super Cat slot, which is very good. But he doesn't replace Soap's role. A direct tank does not replace what Soap does, specifically, and what Soap does is valuable. And he's also cheap. Thank you, Sir Kill, for bringing that out. But yeah, his tanking niche is not particularly good. Well, I mean, it's fine. It is good in theory. That's an important thing. In theory, it is good in theory, but in practicality, it's not that useful. And I think this is not a hot take at all, because I think everyone loves the wave block. That's more important. But our conclusion here is basically he's a quality of life unit. Now think about all the benefits with these. Bora compared to other nukers, benefit quality of life. Mizli and Aer are useless. Volta compared to Seafarer, quality of life. He doesn't enable that much more. Sorry for that, but yeah, and Yamii, mainly quality of life. This set is extremely heavy on quality of life. Not that, and again, quality of life is not an invalid way. It is a very valid way to assess units. But at the same time, they do not enable much more. So now we move on to Gravi. Let's move on to Gravi. And let's get his picture, because we all like Gravi. And no, I'm not gonna say Gravi is bad, guys. If you watch the video, you know that Gravi was the highest one in the tier list, and he was also the only one in that A tier over there. I definitely do recognize Gravi is good. I think if you call Gravi as trash nowadays, that's kind of hating. Like, we should all agree that Gravi is good. But yeah. By the way, this stream assumes you watched my Pixie video, or at least like understand what was in it, because it's not gonna make too much sense otherwise. But let's go into Gravi. I mean, actually, that pause. But what the fuck? Let's go into like discussion about what Gravi does. So he's a tank, alien, and relic tank. We have to acknowledge his talents. Tank. Good generalist stats. He is the only Pixie with, barring Lumina, with good generalist stats. Yes, yes, I will definitely publish all of these pictures, just to make it easier. So if you want to like look at them, then it will be easier for you to understand. So we know that Gravi is good. Alien relic tank, good general stats. His wave, new role of sniping enemy backliner. Because this is something Gravi can do. He has so many roles, he is such a versatile unit. And as I said, like, he's just great all around. I don't have that many complaints with Gravi. Is alien tanking useful? Okay, this is terrible English, but is alien tanking useful? And we go to Yamii's. Here. This is the same thing. Except there is an exception to this. And the exception that compares to like Yamii's tanking, he does actual damage. Gravi hits back. You can use him to kill stuff. Soap will never kill stuff. Gravi will kill stuff. That is what makes him different. Because of these generalist stats, he is a ton of use. Gravi is good, like as a baseline unit. Oh yeah, and in general, Gravi versus Cradle, Cradle is better if you know how to use him properly and can land hits consistently. If you struggle with landing hits with Cradle, then Gravi is better. He's much more consistent. So if you can land those Cradle hits, Cradle is going to do a lot more. A lot more. Cradle has crazy generalist stats. But if you can't do that reliably, then Gravi's the safer pick. Except he does actual damage. So another thing to note is wave plus B break is good on some occasions. Like for example, Cyclone Revenge, floor 43. This is actually a pretty good combo that's unique to Gravi. Gravi has things that are unique and irreplaceable by a non-Ubers. So Gravi, we do actually have reasons to use Gravi even with a Soap Cat, which is very, very, very nice. Gravi is a good unit, and I think everyone agrees on that, or at least most people would. And his generalist tank power is it's decent, but his wave damage output makes him very good. What's a good thing to call this? Brawler. Well, not like Brawl Stars, but like kind of like a brawler front range unit. He's a good frontline unit that like sits there, does damage. He has very good survivability. It's like that. I think we can agree on that. It is massive. Well, it's not that. It's like massive in its own role, but as like a tank, it's not as impactful. But it still has its own role. That's what makes the wave unique. He's a great brawler unit for that reason. Even though his damage output is lower than most other tanks, he has consistency. That's the main value. Quality of life. Again, another thing that's common for Pixies. He's consistent, but the wave itself, even if you don't value consistency, is still good. It's a new niche. And now we have relic tanking. And here's where I get into some kind of new territory in a way. Because in a similar vein of how we asked, is alien tanking useful? Is relic tanking useful? Is relic tanking useful? And the funny part about this is not really, given existing units. For example, Nala, Master Ural, Doron, just Edie, Luza, etc. Which means Gravi, which means post UL 1 star. Gravi's impact on relics hardly felt. Simply they are too crapped. But he is serviceable in UL 1 star. Now how about in the period before the player has UL Agent true forms? We have to judge this important as well. What about if you don't have these guys yet because you're in UL 1 star? This is a very important thing to go. And the thing is, which is like, this is another thing that is good in theory, but not that useful in practicality. Relic tanking is inherently not that useful. Like, think about like Dogu for a second. It's not really the range that makes Dogu not that useful. It's simply that we don't really need a relic tank outside of like primitive souls or the loser stages. That's pretty much it. And here's the thing we have to get into in the period before the player has these UL Legend true forms. He is decent. He is decent for specifically primitive souls loser stages. He's a decent tank for those. And now we have to ask a question, because I know also you guys are just like, who is this guy who just says it's a bad tank? Because I'm not done explaining myself, buddy. Oh yeah, when it comes to Gardeneals, the problem with Gardeneals is that there's only like 2 hard Gardeneel stages in the game. Gardeneals are joke enemies most of the time. And one is Glass Slippers, which Soap is already a good pick on, and the other is Andromeda 3, which is Cats the Cosmos, so Gravi is better, and you don't even have Soap by then. So the Gardeneel interaction is kind of just self-answered. And the question is, which, in reality, why do you need a relic tank? Like, straight up. Why do you need a relic tank? And as radical as a question this seems, you should actually try to answer it. Why do you need a relic tank? Think about how Gravi interacts with all these relic enemies and the stage design that goes on. Into Emost, he does wall it, but he struggles hitting him. Yes, this will be available after the live. So mainly, you only need a relic tank on stages where, like, for example, Primitive Souls. It's good to like tank the Dogu's hits so you can actually hit them. Luza, you need to tank him if you want to hit them. Relic tank is just not that useful of a role because of how relics are designed. Actually, I should put this up here because we're going to answer this on the side and I need to move stuff over. Why do you need a relic tank? And the answer is, actually, I'll put this down here. And the question, and the thing is, due to relic design, just stage design in general, burst or just high damage is favored. Burst is just favored much more. Not just burst, and CC. I'll just put damage and CC is favored more. Much more, actually. And And the question is, like, think about all the relic enemies in the game. You have to think about them and the stages. Like, if you think about it like that. And here's the thing. Versus Relic Doge, it's a peon. Like, almost everything beats it. Versus Sir Rel, he's good against Sir Rel, not even because of his tanking, but because of the wave. The wave is good against Sir Rel. It's very powerful, knocks them all back. That's what's important, the wave and not the tanking. Because honestly, like, I've tried it before. You don't need his relic talents to beat Sir Rels. He just does that already, which is really funny. And like, and also that Sir Rel is just not hard to deal with. Like, come on, you can juggle with slaps, juggle with pizza, slime knocks them all back. It's mostly single Sir Rel that is actually a problem. When it's single Sir Rel, or like single or a few, that's a cash strain. That's the problem in most stages with Sir Rel. Now here's the thing, they aren't meant to, like, I see that tankers aren't meant to carry a stage by killing everything, and meant to support your CC and burst damage helps them stay alive. Okay, I see that. Now here's the problem with that. Here is the problem with that. We think of all the stages where Gravi tanking would be useful, like Primitive Souls and Luza, for example. They aren't like... The reason you have a tank on those stages in the first place is to reach and do damage. Damage output is the reason why. Because these units can reach, and they can tank the boss well, and therefore they can put out large amounts of damage over time. So it all converts into damage in the end. And because it converts into damage, you can just use raw damage anyways. You can run Nala instead on a Primitive Souls 3-star, although you won't have it for the 1-star, which again, that's why in UL 1-star, Gravi is good on Primitive Souls. But on other stages, it's not that useful. On, say, let's go versus Loki. Loki's a backliner, you're usually not going to reach him, but the wave snipes him, so that's decent. Against Loris, he is curse immune plus relic resist, that's okay, but the wave is the main thing that you want from him. And really, it's an interesting thing to say, but I think his relic talents are overrated. Because a lot of the things that you use against relics, you kind of could already do that without them. He already snipes Loris down, he has enough bulk to tank Loris. He already counters the Sir Rel waves, he does that already. So, and even though it does make him a bit better, it's not groundbreaking, him being a relic tank. He did not define like a new meta, even with UL Legends, as some people would like to say. Because a lot of like, and we look at Luza stages for example, Dogu isn't just resistant against Luza. He's also Colossus Slayer, so that's stacking war, and he one-shots Wild Doge, for example. There's other stuff. Like, here's the thing. Like, if you guys can actually, like, answer the reasons why we actually need this Gravi tanking. Because I don't see any actual answers to this type of how Gravi works. Like, even if we assume the tank is meant to support, when do we actually need this over like a Master Euro, for example? Or even without Master Euro, when do we need this, period? And you say Gravi did define a new meta because he's the new relic tank. But the question is, does that matter if he's the new best relic tank? Because we have anti-relics like Nala and Euro who are way better at just killing stuff in the first place. The tank role was unnecessary because these units already do the tank role. Even if their main role is damage or crowd control, they already tank good enough. They are multi-rolled. And because of that, even if Gravi is the best at tanking, the best answer to all of these enemies is Ural or Nala. And I know that like a lot of you came from with this knowledge from, let's say, and I know comparing Gravi to Master Ural is not fair inherently. Master Ural is broken as shit. But it's like saying that like his role is redundant as relic tank in the post UL 1-star meta because you'll have a Master Ural. The role itself is unnecessary is the problem. We don't even need Gravi to tank these relics because of stage design. It's good in theory, but in actuality, there aren't many stages for him. Like, why would you bring a Gravi for the tanking purpose when in reality, you're using his generalist purpose. Yeah, IT-49. Xgoal brought this up to me, actually. That, like, Gravi is pretty good on IT-49. So that is a good use for him. Yeah, like, basically, what I'm saying is that, like, some people, like, I've heard, well, I'm not to name names, but some out there, like, claim he's the new meta, he's the holy grail of relic tanking. The problem is, even if he is by far the best Uber, or, like, actually not even Uber because of ultra talents, but those don't really count. He's the best relic tanking, but how about you actually, like, use him and try to find where that relic tanking is valuable? And by find that usefulness and relic tanking as valuable, I do not mean his generalist value as valuable. I mean his specifically relic tanking value as valuable. Yeah, Primitive Souls, IT-40, he's gonna get completely destroyed on Infernal 30. Because Hermit has, like, I don't know, he does like 130,000 damage per attack cycle if you don't wave block. Primitive Souls is good, though. We do mention Primitive Souls here. And let's add IT-49 specifically. Actually, just IT bosses, because that's the main thing. Oh yeah, and also IT-41. Because IT-41 is a Relic plus Alien stage, so he's actually really good there. And, like, the talents aren't bad. They are good, but they aren't as game-breaking or new as people think. Like, these are still solid talents. These are still things you should get as a Gravi owner. But to say he still provides good value in a meta with UL Legends already, that is too much glazing in my opinion, and that is just an exaggeration of, like, almost misinformation level to say that he provides, like, extreme value even with UL true forms. That is just false. He does not match up to them. But yeah, I do have my gripes with the meta opinion of his relic talents. I do acknowledge they are good, but I acknowledge them for what they are. Good, and again, it's kind of quality of life in a way, because there's a lot of stages where you can't use him. There are good stages for him, and they are good. But they aren't like game breaking. And overall, that's why I have Gravi as the best unit. Look at all these pros for Gravi. He is a great unit. He's a good A tier unit. I mean, he's not hyper specialized, but neither is Master Ural, neither is Nala. Yeah, it's mostly Master Ural, honestly. Master Ural is too stupid for relics to have that much of an impact. And even for Nala having survivability flaws, as I already explained in, like, the tanking dynamic, we don't really use relic tanks for their tanking purpose as much as, like, a bruiser type thing that goes in and does damage. We want to deal damage to Dogumaru. We want to deal damage to Luza. And because Gravi gets in, that's why we use him. Like, think about it. Stalling Luza is not hard. We use Gravi to intercept and do burst damage to Luza. Stalling him was not the problem. It's also that he can answer stuff at the same time because of his wave. So yeah, it all converts to damage in just answering these specific stages. Oh yeah, this is just like a follow-up to a video I made where a bunch of people disagreed, and I'm basically doing a further explanation because some people are still confused. But this is Gravi. So I need to write down. And yeah, this is basically the explanation here, and this gotta move up. There we go. Also, for stages for tanking, that's what I meant. Because he is good generalist, so there are good stages for him, but for tanking. Yeah, that was something I had to correct. But yeah, as we know here, Gravi is the best Pixie. We're not going to see that much negative feedback on Gravi. So I'm going to draw some arrows here, because we know that damage and CC are favored more. This line is too thick. Let's go size 10. Damage. We know that damage and crowd control are favored more, which are all of these units. So even though he does support well, he does tank them well, this role isn't as groundbreaking as we need. Is Yamii's true form good for late to end game? For quality of life reasons, he is pretty good there because, as I mentioned, Exile is a good stage for him. He is good on Authority and Gravity because he blocks all the pigeon waves. He's good on stages like Bell Collector, which spam a ton of waves, good on Banana Genomes, tanks aliens as well there. He is pretty good for his wave block niche in endgame for Yamii in particular. But those stages already have anti-wave answers like Mushroom and Hitman, so it's more of a quality of life thing. So there's Gravi. Now let's get into Blizana. I'm going to run out of time, by the way, so I'm not going to be able to discuss Lugas. This is going to be a 2-part stream thing, okay? And yeah, I really needed this much time to dissect everything. Blizana. So we have Blizana here. And now with Blizana, we have to ask questions. What does this unit do? It slows aliens and zombies. 100%. 350 range. LD up to 550. I'm pretty sure it's 550 for a last hit that does CC. And she's toxic immune. Resist and toxic immune. And Baron Killer. Also, I want you guys to like make sure that if I have like, for example, if there are things that I have unanswered in terms of reasoning, then like you can tell me and I'll go back to like Bora or Volta if stuff was missing for those. So if you have anything missing there, then yeah, that's kind of like something you can tell me and I'll go back and we'll explain further. Also, here's an important thing, like, just in general, for your own ways of thinking about this. My goal is not to convince you that my goal is not to convince you that Lugas are always worse, or that Pixies are always worse than Lugas. My goal is to convince you that it is a valid point of view to believe that either or are the worst set. That is my goal here. Not that you do believe that Pixies are worse than Lugas. You can still believe that Pixies are, for example, much better than Lugas, as long as I make it valid and clear my point of view that Lugas can be better in some situations and be a better set. That is what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, I did cover Bora and Volta before. We have basically a whole page for each Uber. So we see Blizana here. This is Blizana. What does she do? She does this. She slows aliens, hits them. And the first question we have to ask, which is kind of stupid that we keep asking this, when is this useful? If we consider Housewife and Seafarer. We have to consider Housewife and Seafarer, for example. And the important part of Blizana here is the resist, of course. And when House or Seafarer do not have the bulk, this resistance is important for Blizana because it is when they do not have the bulk. That is the main difference. Otherwise, they're kind of equivalent. And since Blizana doesn't perma-slow and these things can perma-CC them, if you stack them, they're probably better normally, with exception of this bulk. This bulk is the important part of what's it called? I forgot her name. Blizana. It's hard how I forgot her name when it's literally right there. I'm stupid, but it's hard to justify her if she did not have this resist. So Blizana has this resist. When is it useful? Versus aliens, we already discussed why this bulk isn't even that useful in the first place by the Volta and Bora argument. And it's even less useful on Blizza because she has 350 range. She ranges even less stuff than Volta does. For aliens, many opportunities, especially on like a stage like Banana Genomes. Slow is not enough. You want Volta's freeze there. You want a freeze there so they can stop attacking, stop spamming waves. A slow, they can still hit stuff, so that's not even useful on there anymore. But Baron Hippo is still a good example. But it's Baron Hippo. That's like, if we're being completely honest, for aliens, it's only Baron Hippo. It's literally only Baron Hippo. you can argue, so it's only bear and hippo, but it is good quality of life. You know, for zombies. This actually does have good opportunities. Because house is fragile. And zombie stage design is... What's the word? Good word for this. Invasive, I feel like. Where defensive play can not always protect units. So the alien is not that useful. The zombie is actually pretty useful. Oh yeah, thank you Onyx D for the $5 donation. Yeah, I don't really take that, like... I won't do it anymore, buddy, but... Yeah, you get it that it's not that serious. Anyways, let's move on. So we know that alien not that useful, zombie theoretically useful. So, which stages? And we do have stages. Unauthorized breathing. We have tons of them because it's zombies. Unauthorized breathing. Internal scream. There's a ton of them that are like just... Oh yeah, wait. She's not good on Retreat of the Living Dead though, because she's not curse immune, is she? As for extensive Omni, like... You think about what you're slowing in a way with Alien and the Omni. With that extension up to 550. I don't think, like, slowing stuff like... For example... Yeah, slowing stuff like those long-range backliners isn't even that useful because Blazana's base range is already there. She's going to be tanking the hit and stopping them anyways. That's the main thing. Oh, Wan's Revenge. Yeah, I guess Wan's Revenge. That is a good one. Actually, no, it's not because you're not going to... There's no reason you should slow Wan. It's really only there so she can hit and Z kill the coffins. So yeah, it's for the zombie part, not the alien part. Because we're looking this as a slow unit, and like... General DPS output is below average. Not a good damage dealer. And then we have plus inconsistencies with multi-hit, of course. This is always something you have to deal with a multi-hit unit. General DPS output below average. Not good. Oh wait, I did leave my unauthorized breathing and stuff. Stages. Unauthorized breathing. Internal scream. Etc. I'll put this first because it's more connected. And on stages like these, yeah, you do have to take them both into account on that stage. Oh yeah, and if you want me to talk about my take that Papaluga is better than Blizzarina, that was actually just poorly worded because Blizzarina is better than Papaluga. I just said that I'd prefer Papaluga more because that's the truth. Some people would prefer Papaluga more, but I think overall Blizzarina is a better unit. That's basically the explanation for that take. And if you're wondering why a few people would prefer Papaluga, it's because Surge Immune. Surge Immune is highly valuable. But yeah, stages, these exist. And the problem doesn't do much damage. And on these types of stages, like if you tried her on unauthorized breathing and internal scream, she's not bad. Wait, internal scream as a curse. Actually, no, she's still fine even if there is a curse blast. Is there? I feel like this is like sometimes. If she gets cursed at the wrong time, she gets deleted. But if you time her right, or if you're just lucky, then it won't happen. So the problem, she doesn't do much damage. So her impact and the slow to prevent invades. Let's just call them burrows. Is it going to prevent burrows? Therefore, and like let's be honest, like stalling zombie enemies at the front line, unless it's Dreadbore, is not too difficult. Or it's Cadaver Bear or Dreadbore, stalling those at the front is not difficult. Like, a Zangru at the front is not pushing you. What's pushing you is the fact that Zangru burrowed underneath and, like, actually does stuff. Now, I think Gravi actually does have good value. I'm talking about mainly his relic talent is the quality of life aspect. Gravi himself has good generalist value. He can enable you because of just raw stats. Now, slow is not going to prevent burrows. For she is going to carry. And I know this is exactly what some individuals are going to say. She is therefore a safety net unit. The goal of, for example, slowing random shit, but like that's about it. Not much damage. Slow isn't going to prevent the burrows. With the goal of just like slowing things down and giving you more time overall. Because if she's there to like kind of meet shield, then that's good. Now the problem with this unit is, given something like this as a safety net unit, this unit is not even that good conceptually. Like, the thing is, if this is a safety net unit, as some people like pointing out, we don't even care that much about safety net units in the first place. What we want is a unit that beats the stage. And Blizana does not beat the stage. She beats the stage only if your original lineup beat the stage. Is she an increaser of consistency? She is an increaser of consistency. And therefore, she is mainly for increasing consistency rather than beating the stage, which makes her mainly, again, every Pixie's favorite word, quality of life. She is a quality of life unit in a sense. And yeah, she's terrible against Cadaver Bear, by the way, unless you have a stepping stone. But then, like, if you have a stepping stone in the first place, you can already housewife. But house does die in like 1 hit or 2 hits. So there is some advantage. But if we look at Cadaver Bear stages, all of them are either cheese fests or it's defaced tombstone, and then Blizzon is terrible in defaced tombstone anyways. Or Full Stop Valley. But she's gonna get cursed anyways on Full Stop Valley. So yeah, this is just unfortunate stage design. Yeah, and for zombies without burrow, let's put it there for. And for zombies without burrow that do push hard, for example, Cadaver. Actually, not. Not that they don't, because Cadaver does, who don't need burrow to push hard. To push hard like Cadaver and Dreadbore. House already beats them. And House only beats Cadaver. Cadaver with a stepping stone. And the same applies for Blizana. And again, quality of life as we see here. And it's not that quality of life is invalid. Like I say this a billion times, quality of life is very useful for some methodologies. The most methodologies, in fact. This should go higher, by the way. So in reality, Blizana is like this. Yeah, basically, if we compared Blizana's anti-zombie potential to any actual combatant anti-zombie, it would be a sweep. Blizana is like, she has like these sort of quality of life usages, but she is not going to be a hard counter to any zombie enemy or any alien enemy. She's a quality of life unit, and she does work on a few good stages, like Baron Hippo, for example. But it's not that revolutionary, in a sense. It's not going to actually help you win outside of Baron Hippo. While it can help you win more consistently, it's usually not going to be a game changer. I did try her on like a ton of zombie stages, and she usually does exactly what House does, and when there is a difference, like unauthorized breathing, Blizana alone was not enough to carry that stage. At least if we do proper levels, like level 50 Blizana on 3-star UL. Floor 43 Heavenly, and you want to use Blizana. That makes sense, because she's 100% consistent slow on the Dreadbore. You can do that, and that's good, but it's also quality of life, because Shigong tanks it anyways. Shigong House will answer that, and it'll cycle faster for like more stuff. And you can bring both, but again, quality of life. Makes you more consistent, but it's not really like an opener, because the player already is going to have Shigong, unless you're like really, really, really unlucky. But if you're really, really, really unlucky and lacking key gacha units in the first place, then almost any Uber in the game can be useful if they cover that role. So that's just how it is. Yeah, and she's good on Zyklone as well, but like, get a few houses and the Zyclone's not moving either. Plus you can Volta weight a Zyklone, yeah. Mainly quality of life. Oh yeah, and I'm also not naming names again, but if you think this unit is if you think this unit is really good, that is just way too much glazing. This unit is mediocre at best. This unit is below Bora, it's below Volta, it's below Gravi, and it's below Yamii. I think that is much agreeable on. But yeah, Blizana is mainly quality of life and not much inherent value. So she is quality of life. This is valuable if you value quality of life. Alright, let's do Takachi, and then I have to do a second stream for this. I cannot cover the Lugas. I have stuff to do today, but... Actually, let's just upgrade this main page. But we already have enough general idea to, like, say this. Pixies review conclusion. The conclusion is main benefit of Pixies is ease of use, quality of life. They aren't the greatest at enabling the player to clear stages they weren't able to before, unless they were held back by, for example, mechanical difficulty. Thus, all Pixies have very good actually not just very, just good value for aiding the player when it comes to the second part, which my methodology is mostly focused on. The value of most Pixies isn't necessarily, oh no, isn't necessarily that high. I need to shrink this, what the hell? Let's go down to 90. Let's just do this. That looks ugly, what the hell? But we'll have to do it. So basically here, a lot of Pixies are mainly quality of life improvements. They're mainly there to aid in consistency and ease of use. And if we look at my methodology, then the main values aren't important. However, for most players, this is important, so we have to say this. While most players will, actually no, not most players, but most new players will benefit by a large amount due to the ease of use from them. Just experienced players who wants to optimize faster progression by enabling more clears will not them as very useful at all. And that's just the truth about it. If you're looking for, like, you want to beat new stages as fast as possible, unlock more content and stuff. Oh wow, that was loud. But yeah, if you want to basically say beat the hard stages that you couldn't otherwise using those Ubers, Pixies is not really gonna do that. Because you could already beat most of Cats of the Cosmos. Also, like, one of the lines I said during the video, I'm just gonna point that out now and explain it. One of the most talked about lines in that video, which is a really, really stupid and misworded line by myself, is when I talked about scaling in Cats of the Cosmos, and one of the lines that I said that was terribly worded is specifically, that I said it's not that hard and you can look up a guide, which is like the most stupid and pretentious sounding thing ever. But what in reality I just meant was, if you actually know the strategy on how to beat the stage, it's not that hard, like, at all. You can do it with very, very minimal requirements to beat those stages. But then again, the two things felt the same to me, but if you say them side by side, you can tell that there's a very, very big difference between them. Oh, hello, X-Skull. Yes, this is definitely my Thunderjack incident. I think it's different in a way, though, because, like, the difference between the Thunderjack incident and this one is this one, I just feel like I have a big, big lack of explanation. Well, Thunderjack was more of just, the unit was new and there wasn't much exploration at the time. I feel like that's the difference. Because I already knew all of this. I just didn't want my video to be longer than 27 minutes. And the problem is this topic needed way more time than 27 minutes. But yeah, this is all I can do for today because I have other things to do. I'm going to be going now. If you guys have any questions, please leave comments on the stream and stuff. I'll tell you a later date where we will finish Pixies and also get into Lugas, because another big flaw of this video is that, I'll put it here, a video about deciding the worst banner did not go into enough depth about Lugas. That is something important. We did not talk about why Lugas aren't as bad as Pixies under a certain methodology. And because of that, that was not good. People need to know the reasons why I don't think Lugas are as bad as some people do if we go for the second option here instead of the first one. But yeah, anyways, I've run out of time here. Yeah, I needed to talk about opportunity cost. That's a good point, Boxcart. It is more opportunity cost than anything. Yeah, I mean, I gave like Luffy like one sentence on showing how busted he is, but let's be honest, the extent of how busted Luffy is doesn't matter because we all know Luffy is cracked. It's more of just the fact that he is only one unit in the whole set of flawed stuff. But yeah, I'll also like upload all of these slides afterwards, and you can like re-look at them. Yeah, this is about it. If you guys have any questions, I'll give you like 5 more minutes before I go. Yeah, I think when you think that Luga's needing a certain methodology to be better than Pixies is a problem, it is a problem. And that's why it's the either guaranteed either the worst or second worst banner in the game. It's not a good banner. It's just that both are flawed. And while Pixies are going to be better with like ease of use and example. Oh yeah, I talked about the Blizza Papaluga thing. That was just extremely bad wording on the original video. There's a lot of bad wording on that video. In where I don't actually believe Papaluga is worse than Blizana. I just think that Blizana has like for example, we look at opportunity cost. Some people would prefer Blizana because of the better quality of life, but Papaluga is a surge answer at least because of surge immune. And even though he is like ass to use for most players, you can still use him to beat stages you couldn't otherwise because of that surge immunity. As terrible as it is, and even as replaceable as he would be by, say, Gigando. Is any other gacha set in question for being worse? I do not think so, personally. Some people think Dragon Emperors, but Gundros is too good for that, honestly. And the Fish as well, because now we have good Ubers in that set. I think, like, honestly, one big flaw also in that main video, I should not, like, using the tier list added pretty much no value at all to that. The tier list was not really useful because I did not explain a methodology for the tier list. I just put random words in, like, banners and stuff, so it was meaningless of a tier list. Because they should be in different places on the list based on different methodologies in the first place. But yeah, I think if you want me to rank the Lugas in like a tier list, I have to define first if we're going by like ease of use or if we're going by like, or by, what's the second one called again? What's the simplified way? Kind of opportunity cost, as Boxcart put it, is the way of wording the second one. Yeah. No, also one thing that's a problem with the tier list that I think I talked with someone, I think it was Tubby, about, is that the tier list tiers are meaningless because of, like, people have different weightings and stuff. Like, if we look at, for example, this time I will name names, if we look at Silverman Tomcat's tier list and, like, unit scores and stuff, he gives stuff, like, way higher scores, not because, like, stuff is better inherently, but because his tier list just uses, like, higher letters in general. Like, we see a Tetsukachi in the B tier, we see a Blazana A+, and it's really, the value compared of them to each other is not inherently that they're all really, really good because they have higher letters on the list, but it's the distance between them, the differentials in tiers. That Blazana is many tiers above, like, a Tetsukachi, for example. That's what separates them. And because of that, like, yeah, Jones ranked Blazana an A. And I mean, it's not wrong. Like, well, I mean, it's not wrong by his standards because, like, he just generally has units at a higher letter than most people's lists because he likes using the upper letters, which isn't inherently wrong. It's just his style. But for someone like me who likes using the lower letters and the higher letters, it's gonna look a lot more offensive. Like, for example, my D tier might be a B minus on a Jones tier list, for example, or like a C plus for like a D minus unit on my tier list. So it's gonna look really, really weird and just wrong. But that's just how some people use tier lists, for example. And because there's a lack of explanation on weighting and stuff, it's just going to cause tons of chaos, and that's one major problem with tier lists. Yeah, exactly. When everyone is high tier, no one will be. That's why I like using all these lower and upper tiers. Because I like separating units into, like, categories in different power levels. But yeah, I think that we're done for today, so this will have a part 2 in the future. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and if you have any problems or concerns about the stuff here, please leave a comment on the VOD of this